My name is James Lynch, and this is Early Look, the show where I take a look at an upcoming notable fight. And on today's edition, I'm going to be reviewing the UFC 307 main event taking place at Vivint Arena in Salt Lake City, Utah. Alex Pereira, Khalil Rountree for the 205-pound strap. And if you never watched the show before, I'm going to go through a bunch of different stats, a bunch of different intangibles. Then I'm going to give you my prediction at the end. I would love to hear your prediction on this fight in the comments. That's how we do it here on this show. Let's do a quick tail of the tape. You can see Potent is 11-2. Khalil Rountree is 13-5. Pereira is 37 years old. The American, 34 years old. 6'4" to 6'1", 80 to 76.5. So see Pereira going to be a little bit bigger. Khalil Rountree going to be a little bit younger. Let's dig into it right now with the current champ, Alex Pereira, or Pereira, as some people like to say. Pereira, doesn't matter to me. Tomato, tomato. All right, so I mentioned that he is 11-2. Pereira's got 9 knockouts, 2 decisions in his career. Current light heavyweight champion. He's the former middleweight champion. Like I mentioned, 37 years old, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. He's got a 3-inch height and 3.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. He's got a black belt in kickboxing, for whatever that means. He's the former Glory middleweight and light heavyweight champion. He's also the former UFC middleweight champion and trains at a Team Teixeira. He's got performance of the night 5 times against Andre Michelina, Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, and Yuri Prochazka. He's the first and only fighter to win the UFC middleweight and light heavyweight championships. He did not have an amateur debut, obviously, because he was a kickboxer. Went straight to the pros in, what year was that? That was October of 2015, made his UFC debut in November of 2021. He's currently gone 8-0 in the UFC. He's got 6 stoppage victories. Some notable wins include Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, Jan Blachowicz, Jamal Hill, and 2 wins over Yuri Prochazka. He's just got the 1 loss there to Israel Adesanya back in April of 2023. He also, in kickboxing, went 33-7 with 21 knockouts. He also defeated Israel Adesanya twice in kickboxing. Hasn't had any major layoffs since joining the UFC. He's been extremely active. He also hasn't had any major injuries. There's not a ton to work with here. A lot of Pereira fights, end pretty quickly and not controversial. The only close fight he's had was against Jan Blachowicz. If you go look on MMAdecisions.com, which is where the media can post their scorecards, you'll see that that was at UFC 291 in July of 2023, which I believe was also in Utah, if I'm not mistaken. It was. So Pereira familiar with the elevation. The only light heavyweight fight he's gone the distance in. So we'll see if that happens here. 22 media members scored the fight for Pereira, just 4 media members scoring it for Jan Blachowicz. So again, I know Jan feels like he won that fight. Some people feel like he won it, but the majority of people did think that Alex Pereira did win this fight. Let's look at some stats for Alex Pereira. Significant strikes landed per minute is 5.23. His striking accuracy is at 63%. His strikes landed per minute is 3.51. His striking defense is only at 51%. His takedown average is 0.17. His takedown accuracy is at 100%, and his takedown defense is at 70%. So that is pretty much everything you need to know about Alex Pereira. Again, going to be having another event here for the UFC, another fight for the UFC, and this is going to be his 3rd fight this year, so extremely active in the weight class. But now let's talk about his opponent, Khalil Rountree, the Warhorse. I don't know if they still call him that, but we'll call him that here. And let's look at Khalil Rountree's career. So I mentioned it there. He is 34 years old. He's 6'1" with a 76.5-inch reach, so he's only 3 years younger than Alex Pereira. He's currently ranked number 8 in the light heavyweight division. A lot of people upset he's getting this shot, but hey, style-wise, this is going to be a real fun fight. He's done some training at Tiger Muay Thai, does some training in Vegas as well at Syndicate. He's got performance of the night 4 times against Gokhan Saki, Carl Roberson, Chris Dawkins, and Anthony Smith. He's got the 3rd most knockdowns in UFC light heavyweight division history at 7. He's also got the 3rd most knockdowns landed in UFC light heavyweight division history at 13. And he's also got the most knockdowns landed in the UFC light heavyweight division bout with 4 against Eric Anders. Rountree made his amateur debut in March of 2011. You can see there a fight that he ended up winning. Made his pro debut in June of 2014, was part of the Ultimate Fighter season 23, ended up losing in the finale to Andrew Sanchez, but did get obviously signed to the UFC after that, as we saw in his debut against Tyson Pedro. Rountree is 9-5 in the UFC. He's got 1 no contest. He's got 7 finishes. Some notable wins include Paul Craig, right? He finished Paul Craig back in 2017. Got a knockout win there. Dustin Jacoby was ranked. Got to mention him as a notable win. We'll talk about that fight in a sec. A little bit controversial. And then Anthony Smith in his last fight, getting a 3rd round finish there. One of the few guys to finish Anthony Smith at 205 pounds. But let's talk about some of his losses here. Tyson Pedro, Johnny Walker, Also mentioned he went to a draw with Olszejczyk, Ion Cutelaba, and Martin Pershino, which is a weird loss because Pershino really hasn't had a ton of success since then. But that's the last loss for Khalil Rountree. Rountree's had a few layoffs in his career, going from Ion Cutelaba to Martin Pershino. There was a 483-day layoff. Going from Dustin Jacoby to Chris Dawkins, there was a 287-day layoff. And going from Anthony Smith to this fight, there is a 301-day layoff. Of course, he was supposed to fight at UFC 300, or UFC 303, I should say, against Jamal Hill, but he was temporarily suspended due to consuming a banned substance. I'll just read it here. He was forced to withdraw. Was supposed to be replaced by Carlos Olberg. Rountree was then subsequently suspended by the CSAC for 2 months, from May 4th to July 4th, 2024, for taking banned substances. So that's another reason why people aren't a fan of this fight. He's coming off a suspension and he's getting a title shot here, but again, people will be happy with it. Just in terms of entertainment. Let's talk about that Pershino fight. That was a decision. If you go look on MMA decisions right now, you'll see that Rountree was a big favorite and wasn't supposed to lose this fight. But on MMA decisions, 14 media members scored the fight for Pershino, just 5 scoring it for Rountree. So again, people did feel like he did lose that fight. And then the Dustin Jacoby fight, which he won by split decision. You go look on MMA decisions right now, and let's have a look right now so you guys can visually see this one. If you go, and this is where the media obviously can post their scorecards. If you go look on the site right now, Dustin Jacoby, and you look at it there, 2 media members scoring the fight for Khalil Rountree, everyone else scoring it for Dustin Jacoby in that fight. And that, that's a win that hasn't exactly aged too well, as Jacoby, I believe, has lost a couple fights in a row, or at least one. I know he got knocked out by Alonzo Menafield. I can't remember what's happened since then. No, back-to-back, sorry. Lost to Menafield, but got knocked out by Dominic Reyes after that fight. In fact, actually, Jacoby's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. So not a great win, but a ranked win. So we do have to mention it as far as notable wins here there. So yeah, that fight probably should have gone the other way if we're kind of looking at it there. All right, let's get to the odds. As you would expect, Alex Pereira, a big favorite on the betting lines. You can see most books having him just under 5-1. Rountree about plus 350, plus 340. And then on Tapology, we're seeing a similar story here. If you look at the fan picking, and again, this doesn't cost any money to pick fights. You can just go in there and have a look. You look at it there, 91% of fans picking Alex Pereira, just 9% taking Khalil Rountree Jr. Which side am I going on in this fight? I think it's kind of obvious. I don't think any magic's going to happen here. I'm going with Alex Pereira by second round knockout. Now, here's why. Couple reasons. Number one, Alex Pereira, 82% of his wins are by KO, TKO. Rountree's been knocked out a couple times in his career. 40% of his losses are by knockout. So it's entirely possible that Pereira can go and knock him out. Even if that wasn't the case, Pereira's still one of these guys that can seem to knock out everyone. Jamal Hill had never been knocked out, knocked him out. He's knocked out a lot of guys. Israel Adesanya, he knocked him out. We haven't seen Adesanya, finish that much in the UFC at all. Again, Pereira is one of those guys that he's got the death touch, as they say. Pereira's been a little bit more active as well. Pereira, this is going to be his 3rd fight this year. Rountree hasn't fought since December of last year. I think, activities, certainly something that could work for him. Could also work against him, in terms of maybe overdoing it. But Pereira hasn't been in the cage that long in some of these fights. All of the wins that he's had this year have been by knockout. So there's that. And also he fought in November too. So if we want to go back to November, Pereira's had 4 fights, I think, right? Let me just double check that in case I get the actually crowd out here. But yeah, you look at it there, Yuri, Jamal, Yuri. So, he's fought 3 times since November of last year, 2 times this year. Very, very, very active there for Alex Pereira. The other thing that we got to mention here, not that anyone would be surprised by this, but Khalil Rountree doesn't have a single submission win. Maybe if you look at some kryptonite with Pereira, if you could get him to the ground, maybe you could finish him there. Rountree has not, he has a ground game, but he rarely uses it. He doesn't have to because he's just a really good striker. He's got a puncher's chance here. I'll say this. Khalil Rountree, I would not count him out completely in this fight because he is a good striker. There's certain fights that he has where he looks very much on. I've talked about this before. Now granted against lower level competition, but Eric Anders, if you have a chance, go watch that fight. Anders was it was you could just tell from the beginning that Anders was not going to win this fight. Rountree was just throwing the house at him. Modestas Bukauskas, same thing, just destroying him. Carl Roberson, same deal. The problem is these are all lower level opponents. I don't think he's going to have that type of performance against Alex Pereira. Pereira's a seasoned kickboxer, one of the best strikers in the UFC, one of the best strikers in UFC history. It's going to be too tough. The other reason I think that Pereira is going to win is that Rountree's kind of inconsistent. Started the UFC with the submission loss, got a couple wins where you think, okay, there's something here. Gets that no contest against Olszejczyk, which, you should probably beat a guy like that. Surprise people beating Galkinsaki. Gets finished in the first round by Johnny Walker, which I know Walker was on a roll back then, but Walker hasn't exactly panned out too much with the UFC. And then you're getting finished by Kutalaba. I know he's a ranked opponent, but like you shouldn't be getting finished in the first round by him. Martin Pershino, how do you lose that? I guess the point I'm making is Rountree's just very inconsistent. It's not a case of a guy who, you know, is just shown to be on some sort of like Charles Oliveira run or something where consistently he's getting a lot of wins. Rountree just hasn't really done that. He's been very inconsistent here. And the other thing I'll point out as to why I think that, and also Rountree's only got one ranked win, which is Anthony Smith. Actually, I guess he's got 2 ranked wins, Smith and Jacoby, but I don't think he won that Jacoby fight, if we're being honest. So hasn't fought good competition compared to Pereira. And then the other thing I think is important to mention, there's not a big age gap in this fight. You know, look, Rountree's in his mid-30s as well. He's 34. I guess close to mid-30s. Pereira's only, you know, a couple years older. So it's not like, you know, Rountree's a lot younger and maybe there's the idea that like there's potential for him to get like a big win here. So I don't know. I think the simplest way to look at this fight, guys, to me is, sorry guys, still got a bit of a cough here. The simplest way to look at this is Pereira's just the better striker. It's like Pereira can do all the things that Rountree can do, but he's just better at it. So it's like, you know, fight's not going to go to the ground. Fight's not probably going to have any wrestling. Rountree, it's like who's going to knock each other out first, and I think 9 times out of 10 you're going to pick Alex Pereira. Again, I think Rountree's got a puncher's chance, but tough to do against Pereira, who I think is, you know, less susceptible to getting knocked out. He's in the proper weight class now. He's not cutting as much weight as he did to middleweight. I think it's a tall task. Alex Pereira, second round knockout, could even be first round knockout here. Pereira is that dangerous, that good. I think he can knock out, you know, 90% of the people he fights. So I'm going Pereira by knockout. Not a huge shocker there. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. What's your prediction for this fight? If you're going with the Rountree side, I will give you full credit if he goes out there and gets the win. So speak now. Don't want anybody after the fact saying, oh, I picked Rountree and then there's no proof of it. But yeah, if you're picking Alex Pereira, you don't need to do the I told you so. We're on the same page here. I'd be pretty shocked if Pereira didn't win this fight by knockout or it went past, you know, second, third round, anything like that. But yeah, Pereira knockout, not rocket science here, people. I think he gets it done. And then hopefully we'll see the winner. Well, hopefully what I would like to see is Ankalaev beat Rakic, and then we finally get Ankalaev Pereira. I just want to see Pereira against someone that's not a striker. It seems like it's been that the last few fights. I'd like to see him fight someone a little bit more well-rounded. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.